Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum and investigate whether a $700 Ether is theoretically on the cards in the short term. So if you guys like the content, please give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel in the description below and make sure you subscribe to the channel to be with us every step of the way this market cycle. Let's go ahead and jump in. So the question we need to ask ourselves is $700 theoretically possible? And looking simply at a USD chart, I mean, obviously it seems like it could in fact rally to that point. But I would say that we should look at our trusty Ether Bitcoin valuation. This has guided us for a long time. If you guys watch the channel, I basically talk about this every other day. So much, in fact, that I'm sure it annoys a lot of you. But at the end of the day, we're talking about, potentially serious money. I personally would rather, make sure people understand where we are, what's theoretically possible, rather than just going off some random numbers that might mean something, might not. So the local top of Ether Bitcoin in the summer was approximately 0.036 at the candles, with a wick up to around 0.04, 0.041 or so, if you round it up. Now, the question is, if we come back up to that local top, not global top, we know the global top's much higher. If we come back up to the local top, where would that put Ether? Well, if Bitcoin stays humdrum at around 18.4 and the Ether Bitcoin valuation goes back up to this local top, which is not that far away, it would put Ether at approximately 650, maybe a little bit higher than 650, depending on exactly what ratio you use. And obviously it's going to depend on exactly what the price of Bitcoin is at the time. So just an Ether valuation of 0.036 against Bitcoin would easily get Ether over 650, assuming Bitcoin doesn't kick the bucket. Okay. Now, the question though is, one of the things we can note is that, well, why would we say that this is the top when we can see we've been having higher highs, right? We've been having higher highs as we progress through the last year or so. Our lows are also going up. I mean, I know we don't typically talk about traditional TA, but I'm sure those of you that do or use traditional TA a lot, you would at least respect the lower lows and higher highs. In that situation, we may assume that the Ether Bitcoin valuation could theoretically go higher, right? It could theoretically go higher than where the local top at this candle was back in the summer. It could even go higher than the 0.041 valuation it almost reached back at this wick. Now, if it were to peak at this point, then where would that put it? Well, 0.041 times 18,400, I think that puts it around 750. Maybe someone check my math on that, but I think that puts it around 750. So if we were to go back up to this wick, then it would put an Ether valuation at 750. Now, if we were to go higher, right, then we could be pushing an $800 Ether. If we were to rally higher than this wick, and let's say we came all the way up to, say, this point, then we could be looking at a theoretical $800 Ether on the cards. Now, of course, all of this depends on Bitcoin. Can Bitcoin stay calm? Can it just chill out? And as long as there's a chance, right, there's a chance that it does, there's a chance that it does cool out at this point, if it does calm down, then it gives Ether the theoretical momentum that it needs to get to a $700 Ether. Okay. Now, it might not all be fun and games getting there. I mean, we could have a candle tomorrow that takes us to $700 Ether. It could also take a week, right? And we don't know. We don't know exactly how long it would take, if it is impending that it will get there in the short term. There can be short-term corrections. One of the things you always have to look out for, that I've said it in every video, a slow bleed of Bitcoin, a slow bleed. So if it goes back down a little, who cares? It's still well above the 20-week. Most likely it's just people taking profits from Bitcoin, putting it into other coins. So if you see Bitcoin bleed a little bit, which it has been doing the last few days or so, if you look at, say, like a 4-hour chart, you can see that there has been, since November 21st, Bitcoin has had a slow bleed, which is exactly what we talked about, right? This slow bleed, which is one possibility for what Bitcoin could do, is still very much bullish for coins like Ethereum because it's so far above the 20-week moving average, and it basically signifies people taking profits from Bitcoin and probably putting them into other coins like Ethereum. So a slow bleed of Bitcoin is fine. It's completely fine. Even if Bitcoin were to go below 18K, we know that Ethereum would likely react in the short term, but it could basically continue, pick back up where it left off relatively quickly. So that's something to keep in mind. If Bitcoin bleeds, yes, there will be likely knee-jerk reactions of the Ether USD price, but as long as Bitcoin doesn't have like a 10 or 20% candle to the downside, then Ether's still looking good. And I even contend that even if Bitcoin did have a 10% candle to the downside, it would affect Ether in the short term, but I think that Ether could actually still collect itself and continue the rally. So what we want to keep an eye on, as always, is the Ether Bitcoin ratio. Now, I mean, I really do think it's somewhat remarkable how well we came right down to this theoretical reaccumulation zone that we've been talking about for like the last half year. We had this zone drawn before we even entered it. If you guys remember, I don't know how many of you guys have been watching the channel that long, but before we even entered this zone, we said that this will be our next theoretical reaccumulation phase of the Ether Bitcoin valuation. We just did a video on this too, so if you're not sure why, you can go back and watch one of the recent videos on Ether Bitcoin macro trends where we identify that, you know what, this is likely a reaccumulation phase of Ether against Bitcoin, and we can very well oscillate between this channel several times on our path to higher Ether Bitcoin valuations. And it's the same story every time. When it's coming up here, the sentiment becomes, why does anyone own Bitcoin? When it's coming back down and Bitcoin's volatile, it's everything else is dead. I want to say altcoins are dead, but I don't really consider Ethereum an altcoin. So just remember this type of move. So if you find yourself looking at an Ether Bitcoin valuation in a few weeks or a few days or a few hours, and it's all the way back up here, you just need to recognize that the mentality of this time is different, does not always work out. It often does not work out. And of course, there's always the possibility we could rally higher and go into a bubble. So I would never, ever recommend selling anywhere close to all of your Ether at this point. And this is not financial advice. I'm very happy with the Ether I've been able to accumulate. But if we want to stay pragmatic as well, right? We don't want to just be this channel that says it's going to go up forever. If it does come back up to the top of this region, I just want people to be a little bit pragmatic about it and say, it might be time to recognize that this could be another shift in the Ether Bitcoin valuation. But we still have a long way to go before we get there. The Ether Bitcoin valuation right now is only 0.033. To get to the local top over here, as measured by the top of the candle, we would need to go to 0.036. To get to the actual wick top, we would need to go to 0.04. If we were to have a systematic rally from here at that slope, right, to get to this point, we would need to go to 0.046 or so. So we still have a ways we could theoretically go against Bitcoin, and assuming we can get past this level here at a valuation of 0.04, then there very much a $700 Ethereum could be on the cards. So again, there's no free lunch. There's always a chance that we don't make it to 700, but I want you guys to understand, is it practical to get there? For instance, if I made a video saying, is it practical to get to a $5,000 Ether in the short term, the answer would be no, right? Not in the short term. I expect us to hopefully get there at some point this market cycle, but in the short term, I would not anticipate us getting to a $2,500 Ether. If you think about where Bitcoin is, let's just say, Bitcoin is at, let's say Bitcoin's at 20K, $10,000 Ether would be 0.5. So a $5,000 Ether would be 0.25. So a $2,500 Ether would be 0.125. So for instance, for Ether to get to, say, a valuation of $2,500, approximately, right, because we're approximating Bitcoin at 20K, we would need to see the Ether Bitcoin valuation come up to this level, right? And that would not be practical. So we're not just saying is a $700 Ether on the cards because it's just a fancy number to throw out. No, we're saying, is it on the cards? And I do think there's a good chance it's on the cards. If you guys remember, we said when Ether was at 230, we said accumulation zone of a lifetime, accumulation phase of a lifetime. When it was at 380 or so, I don't remember the exact price, we said reaccumulation phase of a lifetime. Over the last few weeks, we've been calling for this momentum shift in the Ether Bitcoin valuation. We now have that. We're seeing the beginning moves of it anyways. So we now have that. And now we just want to know, okay, well, how high could it theoretically go? And is $700 Ether on the cards? Remember when we crossed 400, we said, who cares? It's being drug up by Bitcoin. When we crossed $500, I put out a video saying Ether's crossed $500. In other news, I found a quarter. And the point of that video was to say, yeah, it's crossed $500, but it's only crossed it because Bitcoin drug it up. We want Ether to continue to push up higher and let Bitcoin just stay where it is. And this is what ultimately, we want to see. So Ether at $600 is getting a little bit more substantial. Ether at $700, you might want to take notice. If you see Ether going to $800, then that will be certainly something we're going to talk about if we make it there in the short term. But again, I think this is a really nice phase of the market cycle. The market seems really bullish right now. Remember, we are having the Black Friday sale for the premium list. If you guys want to know how I'm handling the markets, I would recommend checking out the Black Friday sale, which you can find a link to in the description below. You get access to the weekly reports, weekly videos, the alerts channel in Telegram, the private Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, which is probably the most important thing. It's how I trade the markets. No day trading for me, just momentum shift swing trading in a sense. And then also a few other things. So if you guys want to check it out, the Black Friday sale will go on for approximately 10 more days. I would encourage you guys to check it out if you've been waiting on that. There is a nice discount that you can lock in perpetually as long as you don't cancel. We have a pretty nice community there as well if you're looking for a Telegram community that is a little bit higher quality, in my opinion, than most. So I think that'll wrap it up for the video. We've looked to see, is a $700 Ether, is it possible? Yes, it is possible based on trends in the Ether Bitcoin valuation. Is it something that we know will happen in the short term? It's of course not. Again, there's no free lunch. This move here was a substantial move, I think, to take part of. But as you see Ether continue higher, one of the things we talk a lot about on this channel is you don't chase bubbles, right? You don't chase bubbles. You must always be ready for them, but you don't chase them. And so that's why the idea is to be DCAing it down here. So then when it starts coming up, you already have it. You're not FOMOing in at this point and chasing a bubble. And yeah, it could work out in the short term for you, because if you buy in here and it continues to rally, then great, it was a gamble and it paid off. But this is more of a calculated investment. Buying down here, buying up here is more of a speculative gamble. If we make it up there, that would be dumb money. Frankly put, sometimes dumb money can make money too. Sometimes if they buy here and we rally up higher, they can sometimes get lucky too. But it doesn't change the fact that it was dumb money, right? Dumb money can sometimes make money. I've seen dumb money make more money than smart money sometimes, believe it or not. To give you an example, imagine people investing now, watching their portfolio go up and up and up, and then dumb money comes in later, buys it, watches it go up maybe 100%, sells it, they're out. The person that was in it for a long time, they watch it go up, and then they watch it come back down. So originally they were smart money, and then they never sold at a local bubble. And I'm not even talking necessarily about these types of bubbles. Sometimes I'm just talking about these macro bubbles that take place over longer time periods. These types of bubbles. These types of bubbles, you have a lot of people just kind of sitting there watching it, greed overcoming them. They don't have the ability to sell because they just keep imagining if they were to sell and it were to continue to rise, they would never forgive themselves. I contend the opposite. right? You have to admit you don't know where the top is, but as long as you're taking little bits off the table as it goes into the bubble, at least if it does correct, you've locked away some of those profits. So that's the idea behind the YouTube channel. That's the idea behind the premium list, which we talk about all the time. So if you guys like the content, subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also check out the Telegram channel in the description below and the Black Friday sale if you guys want access to that. We will surely keep an eye on Ethereum, and we'll see where it takes us over the coming weeks. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.